NASA has received the first clear photo of Ultima Thule, the space rock beyond the orbit of Pluto, which was visited by a probe on New Year's Day. Scientists compared the previous images of the distant object to the new photo taken from a distance of 28,000 kilometres.
Meet Ultima Thule.
The new photos revealed the snowman shape and the reddish hue of Ultima Thule. As data continues to trickle in, the New Horizons probe is also scheduled to send pictures from a distance of 3,500 kilometres. Joining us now to explain exactly what we're looking at is Dr. Charlie Lineweaver from the ANU's Planetary Science Institute. Good to have you along. Explain it for us. What exactly are we seeing?
Hello, Dan. Oh, what we're seeing? Well, we're seeing an object from fairly close up that is further away than any other object that people have looked at closely. So this New Horizon spacecraft, I recall it flew by Pluto and gave us the best view of that system, and that was the main goal. But after it flew by, it couldn't orbit Pluto, so it had to go somewhere, and they said, we need to find a mission for it. So they looked and looked, and they've discovered a object that we now know is about 33 kilometers, and it headed towards it, and it got closer and closer and closer. And the reason why this is important is this is what's called a Kuiper Belt object. And there are thousands, probably millions and millions of Kuiper Belt objects, and this is kind of the most primitive stuff of the solar system, and that's why it's so interesting.
So what does it tell us? What have we discovered so far from the very grainy picture we're looking at right now?
Well, the first thing it tells you is that there are snowmen out there, and they're 33 kilometers tall. Basically, you're looking at two balls. Now, those two balls had to have been separate. They had to have formed separately, and then, this is the big one, and there's a small one, and then they had to have a very, very slow collision so that they didn't smash into each other and destroy each other. So they just kind of kissed each other. Now, what's interesting here is that you can see there's a white ring around the neck of this snowman, and that, we're not quite sure, maybe it's kind of fine sediment that has fallen into the the place where they meet. But also it's kind of reddish, and that's kind of interesting. I said, now, when astronomers hear reddish, they say, well, is it iron oxide like on the surface of Mars? But probably not. Maybe it's some type of organics. In any case, we're sampling and getting to know the details of an object that's further away from us than Pluto.
Given your trained eye, what do you think that it's made up of, whether it has an atmosphere or not?
Oh, I doubt it has an atmosphere. I'm not quite sure of its eccentricity, but it might come, when it comes closest to the sun, it might produce a little bit of gas that comes off, but then that atmosphere will probably freeze again. So not any atmosphere to speak of. It's probably a dirty snowball whose surface has had the ice eliminated from it, and it has become dirtier. That's very much like the nucleus of a comet that we see, because comets are Kuiper Belt objects that get gravitationally perturbed, then they come into the inner solar system, spew out all kinds of gas, and that's what makes them so beautiful in the sky. And essentially, they come from the Kuiper Belt.
And is it staying still, or is it moving either closer or further away from us?
Well, it's going around the sun, and I'm not quite sure. If here's the sun and here's the Earth, I'm not quite sure where it is relative to the sun-Earth direction, but essentially it's probably going around the sun in maybe 300 years or so it's very far away, and it's about 45 times the distance between the sun and the Earth away. And like I said, no other object has been looked at this closely that's that far away.
What happens to Ultima Thule now?
It keeps on going as it has for the past 4.5 billion years. It will be here when you and I are gone, Dan.
Now, I want to change pace a little bit and find out your view on the landing by this Chinese operation on the dark side of the moon.
Yes, the dark side of the moon, which, by the way, is quite a misnomer because it's not any darker there than it is on the near side of the moon. What it is, it's the far side of the moon. And what that means is, if here's a picture of the moon, here's a model of the moon, all of these things are basins that you can see, and if you are the Earth, this is what you see all the time. If here is the Earth, then the moon is always facing the same side towards the Earth. So every other landing, there have been maybe a dozen landings on the surface of the moon, have always been on the near side because Earth can communicate and go back and forth easily. What the Chinese have done, and this is going to happen in a few hours from now, is that they have launched a satellite to be way, way back behind the moon, such that from the point of view of the satellite, it can talk to the backside and to the Earth, if you're the Earth. And that's how they solve this communication problem. And that's why for the first time, we will have a lander on the backside of the moon. Not just any place either. It's in the largest, oldest, and deepest crater on the moon called South Pole Aiken. And South Pole is here, Aiken is about here, and it's going to land right about here. It doesn't look like there's a deep depression there, but guaranteed there is, and it's one of the deepest places on the moon, and it's really, really an old crater, so old that it has craters on top of it, then you can't even see it.
So why that position, and what do you make of the discussion that there are greater tenements, if you will, of minerals there on that side?
Well, when you have a crater on the moon, it kind of carves out a part of the surface. And if it's a little bit, it carves out this much. If it's a deeper crater, it carves out this much. This is the deepest crater on the moon, so it might give us, imagine if we could have the deepest crater on Earth, it would tell you a lot about the interior of the Earth in a way that no other crater could. And that's one of the reasons why they're going to this deepest spot. Another reason is that we're trying to understand the impact history of the moon and the Earth, and being the biggest and oldest crater on the moon, we would like to know the date. We would love to know the date because that would help us date all the other craters. So far, we only have dates on this side, and they're about 3.8, 3.9, 4 billion years. We suspect that this one will be 4.1, 4.2, maybe even 4.3 billion years old, and that sets the calibration for all the dates of all the other craters.
Dr. Charlie Lineweaver, always a pleasure to chat with you.
All right. Dark side of the moon, far side of the moon.